Chapter 44, Mezu Mize Dude. Meanwhile, the two A and BU that were following the twins around were giving each other weird looks. Today was supposed to be the last day of their mission, but it seems another troublesome situation will happen before the day ends. They didn't know what Mizuki told Naruto, but after seeing Naruto grin they doubted it would end well for Mizuki. They also noticed that Hinata and Yuna were following Naruto as well, which obviously would make the situation even worse for Mizuki. The four people followed Naruto and saw him enter the Hokage Tower and leave it again after 30 minutes with a huge scroll strapped on his back. The two A and BU grew even more bewildered when they saw that scroll. Where did it come from and why was Naruto carrying it around? Yuna, meanwhile, had a rough understanding of the situation. She hid at a different angle when Naruto and Mizuki were talking and managed to read their lips. Mizuki apparently wanted Naruto to steal some important scroll out of the Hokage's office. She had no idea how someone could fall for such a ridiculous lie, but she was pretty sure Naruto didn't. She had, however, an idea where the scroll on Naruto's back came from and already had a rough idea of what Naruto was planning. Naruto was currently speeding through Konoha with a smirk on his face. After a few more minutes of travel, he arrived in a forest just outside the village. This was the place Mizuki told him to deliver the scroll to. After a few more minutes of waiting, Mizuki appeared with a smile on his face. "Good job, Naruto. You managed to pass the secret test. Just hand over the scroll and I will promote you to a genin." Naruto almost sneered when he heard Mizuki's speech. In the last few years, he has become more and more experienced at reading people's emotions and he could easily tell how much Mizuki hated him. For now, however, he decided to keep up the act. A goofy smile appeared on Naruto's face as he nodded in excitement. "Haha, of course I did it. I will be really great one day, so getting the scroll was naturally easy for me." After saying that, Naruto tossed the big scroll on his back towards Mizuki, who caught it with glee in his eyes. Truth be told, he only wanted one of the demons to get in trouble before he betrayed Konoha and maybe get the chance to kill one of them. He never expected to actually get the scroll of seals. The reward Orochimaru would give him for this should be pretty good. He couldn't help but get excited at the prospect of becoming one of Orochimaru's most important shinobi. "Haha, well done Naruto. Here is your reward for getting the scroll. It's death." Mizuki quickly sank both his hands into the small bags on his belt and moments later, 4 shurikens were flying towards Naruto. Although Naruto was slightly surprised at suddenly being attacked, he didn't panic at all. Yuna had trained him for a long time now and constant vigilance was something that has been pretty much engraved into his bones. He saw the shuriken flying at him and decided to get killed by them. Naruto didn't expect Mizuki to hate him enough to actually attempt to kill him, but for the sake of his prank, he decided to just go through with it. Simultaneously, he decided to make the whole thing much more vicious as revenge for actually attempting to kill him. What Naruto didn't expect to happen, however, was that just a moment before the shurikens were about to hit him, Iruka jumped in front of him in an attempt to block the shuriken with his body. Naruto's eyes almost fell out of their sockets when he saw that. If Iruka just blocked the shuriken with a kunai or something like that, it would still be fine. Yes, his prank would have been ruined, but that was all there was to it. Now, however, there was actually a chance for Iruka to get fatally wounded because of it. Naruto was just about to use some of Kurama's chakra, no matter the consequences, when another 4 shurikens came flying and blocked the 4 Mizuki had used. Mizuki was, naturally, angered by this and he immediately started yelling. "Who is there? Show yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Yuna revealed herself with a wry expression on her face. "Seriously Iruka, what are you even doing? It's good that you want to protect Naruto, but you do realize there are other methods than using your body as a shield, right?" Iruka's face slightly reddened after he heard Yuna's comment and he was just about to answer when Mizuki intervened. Ha ha ha, to think both the demons would be here. Today is truly my lucky day. Not only did I get my hands on the scroll of seals, I even get the chance to kill the twin demons. Yeah, Mezu Mize, oh dude, you sure are amazing. A rather awkward silence descended on the surroundings when everyone realized that Yuna doesn't even remember Mizuki's name. This was actually a problem she had in her past life as well. She simply couldn't remember the names of people she deemed uninteresting. Mizuki, as side character C, naturally fell into that category. Mizuki, naturally, grew even more furious when he realized that Yuna doesn't even remember his name. What the hell? How can you not even remember my name? I've been teaching your class for half a year already. Are you an idiot? Yuna, of course, couldn't let someone curse her like that, so she stepped forward with confidence. Haha, I was just playing with you. Of course, I know your name, Muzaki. During the awkward silence after Yuna's sentence, Naruto quietly approached her and whispered something into her ear. After a nod of understanding, she crossed her arms in front of her body. An arrogant sneer appeared on her face as she spoke her next sentence. Haha, I was just playing with you. Of course, I know your name, Mizuki. After another awkward pause, Mizuki finally snapped. I see now, you want to distract me with your nonsense until reinforcement arrives, but there is no way someone in this village would willingly help you. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know the reason why everybody hates you? Of course, I want to know about it, Ms. Yuna stopped for a moment and seemed to be thinking about something very hard for a moment. UKA. Tell me about it. Mizuki simply ignored that Yuna seemed to have forgotten his name yet again and proceeded with unveiling the big secret. You two have. Stop it, Mizuki, don't tell them. Before the big secret could be revealed, Iruka intervened, but that naturally wouldn't stop Mizuki. The QB sealed inside you. That's right, both of you are monsters, that's why everyone in the village hates you. Iruka panicked when he heard Mizuki reveal the secret of the QB and expected the twins to sink into despair when they heard about it. To his surprise, however, Yuna and Naruto were currently looking at Mizuki like he was an idiot. A few moments later, Yuna's face switched to one filled with joy. Oh my god, Naruto, did you hear that? Apparently, the QB is sealed inside us. Naruto immediately mimicked Yuna's expression when he understood her plan. Isn't that amazing, Nei-san? To think we would have the QB sealed inside us. I know, right? This is such an exclusive secret. Only about 90% of the village know about it. We are truly lucky to be informed about a 20-story tall fox being sealed inside us. I know, right? How could we possibly find out about someone else literally being stored inside us? That's just ridiculous. Yuna could have sworn she heard a few people chuckle in the background, but decided to ignore it. She saw how Iruka and Mizuki were both flabbergasted that Naruto and she already knew about the QB and could only shake her head at their reactions. Seriously, why do these people think we don't know about it? Our birthday is literally the same day as the attack on Konoha and everyone is calling us demons. If you are capable of adding one and one together, it is rather obvious what is going on. Yuna had already lost interest in the current situation, so she decided to end it now. Oh well, Naruto, let's end this. Just knock him out and we can get this over with. Okay, Nei-san. Without another word, the scroll on Mizuki's back disappeared into a cloud of smoke, and as soon as the cloud disappeared, a second Naruto was revealed, standing next to a knocked-out Mizuki. Seeing what happened just now, Yuna couldn't help but ask a question. I am just curious, but what was your actual plan for the prank? Naruto nodded in understanding and started to explain what he had planned out. I thought he wanted the scroll to get stronger himself and would take it home after getting it. After he went to sleep, I would knock him out and then paint his whole house orange, like the whole thing. After he tried to kill me, however, I changed my plans. I wanted to pretend that I died after being critically injured by his shuriken, and after he took my shadow clone in scroll form home, I would still knock him out. This time, however, I would search for his pawn collection you told me every man would have, tie him up and place him together with his collection in the middle of the market. Yuna felt a shiver of pure terror going through Aruka and the two ANBU guards but decided to ignore it. You do realize that even if you did it, you wouldn't be promoted to genin, right? This time, Naruto actually froze up. He didn't think about that at all. He only had his successful prank in mind without thinking about the consequences. Seeing that Naruto was pretty close to crying, she could only shake her head in exasperation. Fine, Naruto. Don't worry about it. Nei-san will help you solve your problem. Yuna still had a rather effective trump card against the Hokage, and although she would rather preserve it for more serious issues, if it was for Naruto, she wouldn't mind using it. There is no need for that. Surprisingly, Aruka had something to say. He approached Naruto and took off his shinobi headband with the Konoha symbol on it. Due to your outstanding service towards Konoha in not only reporting about a Chunin attempting to betray Konoha but even knocking him out, I will use my authority as a Chunin teacher to promote you to a genin. Yuna was rather suspicious about that kind declaration. After all, Naruto didn't report anything and certainly didn't do it for the sake of Konoha. But after seeing Naruto's relieved smile and seeing that the ANBU guards didn't seem to mind, she simply stopped worrying about it. Like this, I can at least use my trump card for what I intended it to be used. Chapter 45, Blatant Bribery. Hiruzen was currently sitting inside his office and was reading his favorite book. While reading, a perverted chuckle would occasionally escape his lips. No matter how often I read this, I simply can't get enough of it. There are rumors that the author is working on his next book, but no information on when it will be released. Will it be a sequel to Garden of Lilies or a completely new storyline? I really can't wait. These rumors were, of course, spread by Yuna herself. There is no better advertisement than having people talk about it after all. She plans to release her new book in a few months when the rumor mill is at its peak. Hiruzen was just about to turn the pages when he heard someone land on the window frame of the window behind him. In his mind, the only one who would do something this brazen was Jiraiya. Hiruzen turned around with a scowl on his face and was just about to start scolding Jiraiya when he completely froze up. Instead of a middle-aged man, he was crossing eyes with a young teenage girl. His hands blurred and with a speed that might even surpass him at his peak, he hid away his book inside one of his drawers. Yo, old man. I want to talk about something important. Hiruzen was slightly relieved when Yuna apparently didn't notice the book he was reading but was also rather confused about why she came to his office through the window. I'm, naturally, happy to help you with your problems, but why did you decide to come through the window? You should know that my job is very important and not everywhere. I saw the book you were reading. As I said, whatever it is I can help you with, I will naturally do so. Haha, that's good, but you should know that the matter I want to talk about is really important. After that sentence, Yuna discreetly pointed at the trigger for the privacy seals. Although Hiruzen had no idea how Yuna knew of the correct position, he simply decided to ignore that for now and simply activate the seal. He was currently thinking about how he could convince Yuna that he wasn't brazenly reading porn inside his office. All right, we can talk freely now. What is so important that you had to interrupt me finding out about Konoha's current trends? I am here to make a little deal with you in regards to the team assignments. There are a few things I would like your support with. Oh, by the way, I know that book was released years ago. Hiruzen could feel a dagger pierce his heart after Yuna revealed his lie, but he still kept his stoic face. As for a request in regards to the team placements, he wasn't surprised in the slightest. She probably wants to be in a team with Naruto and Hinata, but that, unfortunately, is impossible. Having both Jinchuriki in the same genin team can't be allowed, after all. Well, I am an old man and have a lot of work to do, so it is rather hard to keep up with the trend. Being a few years behind is nothing unusual at all. As for your request, I, unfortunately, have to Dan. Now, let us not say anything we might regret later, okay? Yuna quickly raised both her hands and stopped Hiruzen from saying more. Hiruzen couldn't help but look at her weirdly. Why does that sound like she wants to threaten me? Does she think she can threaten me now that she has seen me reading that book? No, I don't think she would be that stupid. While Hiruzen was pondering what Yuna might be planning, she pulled out a small book that looked rather similar to the one Hiruzen was just reading. She carefully put it onto the table in front of Hiruzen and then crossed her arms in front of her and waited for Hiruzen to make a decision. Hiruzen couldn't help but be slightly taken aback at how confident Yuna seemed. He carefully picked up the book and inspected it. He was slightly surprised that it was actually signed, but a sneer of disdain quickly appeared on his face. Not a bad move, and I have to admit that it probably wasn't easy to get your hands on a signed copy, but, aren't you looking down on me? I, naturally, have my own signed copy safely stored away at home. You won't be able to bribe me this easily. I'm surprised you got your hands on this, but bribing the Hokage isn't that easy. At this point in time, Hiruzen had already forgotten that he wanted to convince Yuna that he wasn't reading porn inside his office. By thinking he could be bribed with a simple signed copy, Yuna implied that she didn't think he had won. That naturally went against his pride of being a true fan, and he had to put her in her place. Yuna's smile, however, only widened after Hiruzen's rejection. Oh? Are you sure about that? For some reason, a shudder went through Hiruzen's body. The last time Yuna acted like this was when she finished off a Nietzsche. He gave the book another glance and that came to a mind-blowing realization. No way. It cannot be one of them. Hiruzen lifted his head and gave Yuna another glance. The only thing he could see in Yuna's eyes was mockery. She was looking down at him for thinking that a signed copy was already the peak. For being a fraud in the world that doesn't know how high the heavens truly are. With shaking hands, Hiruzen picked up the book again. He carefully turned the pages like they were the most breakable material in the world and finally reached that page. After reading that name, his mind almost exploded. This is a review copy that was signed by the author. It took Hiruzen a few minutes to regather his thoughts, but when he did, he carefully closed the book, put it into a safety sleeve that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, put it into one of the drawers of his table, and then closed the drawer, causing a few seals to light up to confirm the closing process. A grandfatherly smile appeared on Hiruzen's face. Haha, Yuna, no need to worry. As this village's Hokage, it is of utmost importance for me to help my citizens out. If you want me to shuffle around the team assignments a little, then I will naturally do so. Yuna really wanted to give Hiruzen's shamelessness a thumbs up, however, since it fit her agenda, she would ignore it for now. As expected of the Hokage, you really are great. Anyway, here are my requests: put Hinata, Naruto, and me in different teams. I have been babysitting those two for quite a while now, and it's time for them to learn to walk on their own legs. Hiruzen only nodded at that. He planned to separate Naruto from the two anyway and put him in a team with two other genins. As for Yuna and Hinata, they were supposed to be part of the 5-team cell under Kurenai Yuhi that specializes in tracking. A censor as ridiculous as Yuna would naturally be a good fit for that team. Since Yuna seems to have her own ideas, he didn't mind accommodating her for a bit. As for the second request, I want you to put me in a 2-man cell. Just me and a jonin, and I want that jonin to specialize in infiltration and assassination. Absolutely not. Why would you want that? No need to worry about that. Just assign a jonin to me. From what I heard, jonins can reject the genins that were assigned to them if they deem them not suitable. Just make sure the Jonin tests me fairly, and if he or she still rejects me, I will just join another group. How does that sound? Hiruzen ponders Yuna's offer for a while and then nodded his head in agreement. He will just give Yuna to a Jonin and tell the Jonin to reject her no matter what happens. That should solve the problem. Oh, by the way, I might have put a seal on that book that turns it into dust after getting activated. If I feel like I am being tricked, I might get angry and, totally on accident, of course, activate that seal. Oh, well, see you later, old man. Hiruzen nodded his head in understanding. As the Hokage, there was, naturally, no way he would trick one of his citizens with dirty schemes, so there was no need for Yuna to worry about anything. Chapter 46, Kakashi Hatake. Yuna, Naruto, and Hinata were currently standing in front of the academy. It was finally time for them to meet their new Jonin senseis. Well, Naruto and Hinata would. Yuna's sensei, apparently, is still outside of Konoha on a mission. All three of them wore rather similar-looking pants. But Naruto's were orange, Yuna's were ice blue, and Hinata's were a violet that looked suspiciously similar in color to Yuna's eyes. All three of them had, like most shinobi, a holster for shuriken and other tools on their sides. Although they looked like normal holsters that can be bought anywhere, Yuna slightly modified them with seals, which turned them into National Treasure-grade equipment. They have huge storage space, and as long as they aren't more than a kilometer apart, things inside one of the bags can be taken out from the other bags as well. Additionally, they are pretty much impossible to be stolen or destroyed. Naruto wore a comfortable tracksuit. It was black with orange sleeves, and he had an orange Uzumaki clan symbol on his back. His hairstyle was rather similar to his father. Considering he has also been growing rather quickly lately and has reached 152 meters in height, and he looked very similar to his father. Yuna found it simply ridiculous that no one has said anything about that yet. He had a mischievous smile on his face, and his blue eyes radiated excitement. Hinata, on the other hand, wore a simple white hooded jacket with a purple Uzumaki symbol on her back. Her jacket zipper was undone and revealed a simple blue shirt underneath it that, to Kurama's annoyance, had a very small red fox stitched onto it above Hinata's chakra center. It was gifted to her by Yuna with the words, "Now all three of us can have a lazy fox hanging around with us." And Hinata naturally loved it. She had hip-length hair that she simply let cascade down her back with two strands framing her face. Her height was 149 meters, and she, just like Naruto, had excitement radiating out of her eyes, while a calm and confident smile adorned her face. Today she would finally be completely set free from the Hyuga clan, and she naturally couldn't wait. Yuna wore a blue hari with white trimming that had purple snowflakes sewn into it. Her back was adorned with a golden Uzumaki clan symbol with 5 small purple spikes fitted around it. If someone were to look closer, this combination would look a bit like Yuna carrying a huge crown on her back. Her crimson-colored hair with blue strands was tied to a simple ponytail that reached her shoulder blades, while one blue and one red of the strands were framing her face. Her facial features were similar to Kushina but much sharper. Unlike Kushina's eyes, which usually radiated friendliness and excitement, Yuna's purple eyes held deep profoundness and composure. Her height was similar to Naruto's at 151 meters. She didn't mind being a little smaller than Naruto, since it is rather normal for a man to be a bit taller than a woman. She had a calm smile on her face as she entered the Shinobi Academy for the last time. As soon as they entered the classroom, Ino approached them with a happy smile. "Hello, it is good to see that everyone is here." As soon as she finished that sentence, she glared at Naruto, who could only chuckle dryly in return. "So, mind telling me what you failing the exam was all about?" Naruto gave her another small chuckle and then started his explanation. "Look, Ino-chan, it is not what. It was to play another prank, right?" Naruto seemed to have received a physical blow after Ino's question and staggered back a little. Unfortunately for him, the floor was, for some unknown reason, frozen over exactly when Naruto was trying to step. Naruto slipped and started to fall. While he was falling, he tried to grab everything he could to prevent his fall. Unfortunately, that everything turned out to be Uchiha Sasuke, who was too busy brooding to react, so both of them crashed to the ground. When Yuna saw what kind of position they fell into, Yuna almost wanted to applaud Naruto's skills. Sasuke was laying on his back, while Naruto was on top of him. One of Naruto's knees was dangerously close to Sasuke's crotch, while Naruto was holding his upper body with one hand that was just beside Sasuke's ear. The spiciest part was that Naruto's and Sasuke's lips were almost touching each other. If Naruto's instincts were worse, it actually would have happened, huh? I just wanted Naruto to trip into Sasuke, who would have thought I would create such a spicy scene. Wahahaha, I can only imagine how my other part feels. I wonder if he would have managed to cut off his sense in time if it actually happened. Naruto. What are you doing to my Sasuke Kun? Yuna could only shake her head when she heard the banshee scream. Even after Yuna gave her a reality check, she still insisted on running after Sasuke. Naruto, on the other hand, was currently shaking in fear. The target of his fear was, naturally, not Sakura, but the two purple eyes that were currently locked onto him and held nothing but amusement. Naruto stood up as quickly as possible and was about to leave the room when two hands landed on his shoulders. Instead of hands, however, it felt like chains were attached to him. He slowly turned his head around and saw Yuna looking at him with a motherly smile. Don't worry, Naruto, as your Nasan I will naturally support you. I can't really approve of Sasuke, but I am sure things will work out somehow. Naruto's face turned completely pale after hearing that, while almost coughing up some blood. The whole classroom turned completely silent as everyone was giving Naruto and Sasuke weird looks. Yuna could see that she might be pushing a little far this time, so she decided to quickly de-escalate the situation. Ha ha ha, Naruto, don't look at me like that. You should know I was only joking around, right? Naruto couldn't help but give Yuna an angry pout. Please control yourself, Nasan. Ha ha, sorry, okay. I was surprised how great you landed, so I lost control for a little. While Naruto and Yuna were bickering, Sasuke finally managed to get out of his stupor. He was just about to yell at the twins when Iruka entered the room, so the only thing he could do was glare at them. Yuna and Naruto, however, didn't even notice him, which made him even angrier. Okay, everyone. I am here to tell you about the Jonin that will act as your sensei from now on. You will form a team under your new sensei with 2 other Genins and form a 3-man cell under the guidance of your Jonin sensei. From now on, your sensei will be responsible for your education and will teach you how to become stronger. I will now read out the team assignments. Team 7 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Yes, my love prevailed. And Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto couldn't help but groan when he heard that. His luck was really bad to be in a team with those two. Yuna, on the other hand, could only nod in approval. Despite how he usually acts, that old man is surprisingly cunning. With Sasuke's arrogance and Sakura's obsession with him, these two make perfect cannon fodder in case the situation gets dicey. While idiot number 1 and 2 are happily fighting their opponents to the death, their sensei should have enough time to rescue the valuable Jinchuriki. Not bad, old man. Not bad at all. Hiruzen, meanwhile, considered whether it was really okay to choose the new Genin teams randomly after Yuna's request, but after considering how much time it would take him to properly balance them, time that he would rather spend admiring his new treasure, he decided to not think about it anymore. Back in the classroom, Iruka continued his announcement. As for your Jonin sensei, it will be Kakashi Hatake. Apparently, Yuna Uzumaki will temporarily be part of Team 7 as well, since her Jonin is currently on a mission outside of Konoha. Oh? That was unexpected. I'm temporarily in a team with Naruto. Is the old man trying to butter up to me now? Hiruzen, meanwhile, was kowtowing in front of a shrine that had multiple books placed on it. At the very top of it was the treasure he acquired just a few days ago from Yuna, the review copy of Garden of Lilies. I offer my prayer to Arasama, the god of gentlemen. The team assignments continued, and about a minute later, everyone was assigned to attain. Hinata was together with Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburane. Kiba was rather brash and loud, but he at least seemed loyal, while Shino seemed to be calm and collected, which was slightly surprising to Yuna. In a previous life, people that grew bugs inside their bodies were pretty much all nut jobs, after all. Ino was teamed up with Shikamaru and Chuja, which probably doesn't surprise anyone that knew the history of their clans. They have been fighting side by side for ages and naturally would continue to do so. As for the two Jonins that would lead the two Genin teams from now on, Yuna has almost no information about them except for their bingo book entries. She found it a little weird, however, that Kiranai Yuhi, someone who excels at genjutsu, was taking charge of the tracking team consisting of Hinata, Kiba and Shino. Your new sensei will appear here shortly. I wish everyone in this room good luck in their future endeavors. A few minutes later, Ino's and Hinata's sensei arrived to take them somewhere, while Team 7 and Yuna were still waiting. An hour later, the four of them still sat inside the classroom. Sasuke seemed to be determined to brood until Kakashi arrived, while Sakura seemed to get slowly annoyed by all the waiting. Yuna and Naruto meanwhile had their heads on their tables and appeared to be sleeping. Another hour passed by. Sakura was visibly annoyed, while Sasuke was continuing to brood. Yuna and Naruto were still sleeping with a calm smile on their faces. Meanwhile, Kakashi was looking at his new students and shook his head. They show no signs of wanting to be attained. Guess this is another failure. Those two twins are even sleeping. They seem to have no awareness of their surroundings at all. Oh well, guess I'll wait another hour. After saying that, he pulled a book out of his back pocket and started reading. Red Rose Sensei, just when will you release your next masterpiece? Another hour passes, and as soon as Kakashi decides to stop observing their classroom, Yuna and Naruto wake up from their sleep. They glanced at each other for a moment and then nodded their heads. Naruto stood up with a smirk. He walked towards the door and placed a chalk sponge on top of it. What are you doing, idiot? He is a Jonin. There is no way he will fall for that. Naruto smirked at Sakura before answering her. The more layers you add, the harder it will be to find the core. Sakura had, naturally, no idea what that meant. She was about to retort when the door opened and Kakashi entered, just to have a sponge fall on his head. Even Yuna couldn't help but raise her brow a little when she saw him actually fall for that. Is he trying to teach us something with this, or is he just not attuned to attacks without killing intent? How can I say this, my first imprey? Kakashi, however, couldn't finish his sentence as a barrage of wooden shuriken was shot at him. His single visible eye widened in surprise as he quickly dodged all of them with minimal movements. He was just about to dodge the last one when he noticed that a cake was being hurled at the exact location where he wanted to dodge to. He quickly pumped chakra through his body and twisted away his head to barely dodge the cake, and after he managed to do so, a single chalk sponge landed onto his head. This immediately silenced the roan. Kakashi quickly scanned through the faces of his new team to understand the situation. Sasuke and Sakura seemed to have no idea what just happened, while Yuna and Naruto had an annoyed pout on their face. He was just about to put more thought into it when Naruto interrupted him. You know, Sensei, that would have been much funnier if you weren't hit by the first sponge, you know. You are right, Naruto. Why did we even bother with that elaborate setup if we could have hit him that easy? What a waste. Silence descended on the room before it was broken by Sakura. Wait. You are responsible for the cakes. Chapter 47, Introductions. The 5 people sitting on the roof of the academy currently had a rather awkward atmosphere surrounding them. Sakura was starring daggers in an attempt to find out how those cakes kept appearing. Sasuke was brooding especially hard while thinking about that surprisingly well-coordinated surprise attack he just witnessed. Kakashi seemed to be deep in thoughts as well. He was pondering how the twins managed to set all of that up in the short time it took him to reach the classroom. Naruto and Yuna, on the other hand, were waiting for Kakashi to start talking with casual smiles on their faces. Kakashi noticed that the mood was getting more and more awkward, so he decided to just start the conversation. Anyway, let's start with introductions, shall we? How about we start off by you saying a few things about yourself? Like your likes, dislikes, hobbies and dreams for the future. Sakura was the first to answer. Sensei, shouldn't you talk about yourself first? Huh? I guess that's true. Let's see. My name is Hatake Kakashi, my likes and dislikes. I don't want to tell you about them, my dream, well, I have a lot of hobbies. Yuna could only roll her eyes at that half-assed introduction. His likes are reading a certain kind of book. I don't know all of his dreams, but one of them is probably getting his hands on a certain version of a certain kind of book, while his hobbies are reading a certain kind of book. All eyes immediately zeroed in on Kakashi, with each pair looking more suspicious than the last. Kakashi released an awkward sigh and then swiftly proceeds to divert the topic to something else. Anyway, Pinky, what about you? Me? Well, my name is Sakura Harino. My likes are home. The person I like is he. As for my dream, oh yeah. During her introduction, Sakura was constantly glancing at Sasuke, who ignored her completely. Kakashi, on the other hand, was already getting a small headache. More interest in boys than in becoming a shinobi, huh? This will be really bothersome. As for my dislikes, the demon twins. Yuna only rolled her eyes at Sakura, while Naruto had a wry smile on his face. He didn't do anything at all. Wasn't Nasan the only one bullying her that one time? How come I mixed in there as well? Seems like at least Naruto isn't hostile to Sakura, despite her apparent dislike for Naruto. I see, thanks for that unique introduction. Blondie, you are next. Okay, Tilda, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like my family members, those few I consider friends, and ramen. I dislike all those idiots who hate me without a reason. My hobbies are playing around with seals and pranking people, preferably together with Nasan. It is my dream to be surrounded by a lot of friends and family while having enough power to protect all of them. I'm pretty sure something rather outrageous was mixed in there just now. Did he say playing around with seals? Guess I should find out more about that when I have time. The first part of his dream seems rather fitting for a child that grew up without parents, but the second part makes it rather obvious that it wasn't a simple childish desire, but something he had actually thought about properly. He grew up rather interestingly, and it is pretty obvious that his big sister played a huge role in that. All right, you are next, Grumpy. Although Sasuke was annoyed by that nickname, he decided to just get the introductions out of the way. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I dislike most things and don't like anything in particular. Rather than a dream, I have a certain ambition. I want to resurrect my clan and kill a certain person. Well, it is like I thought. Before Kakashi could disperse the dark atmosphere, Yuna's laughter echoed on the rooftop. Haha, damn, Sasuke, that is pretty good. To think our dreams would be this similar. I didn't expect to find a kindred soul in you. Everyone gave Yuna a weird glance when she said this. Only Naruto could more or less guess what she meant. Oh, well. Might as well start my introduction. I'm Yuna Uzumaki. Like Naruto, I like my family members and friends. Additionally, I enjoy fighting and pranking people. I dislike people that think they are big shots because they are related to someone important. As for my dreams, hee. Just like Sasuke, I also want to kill a certain man and then create a huge harem for myself to resurrect the Uzumaki clan. I am currently working on a method to make that possible, by the way. I have an additional dream, man. Wait a moment. How is that the same as Sasuke-kun's? He didn't say anything about an harem. Yuna could only give her another eye roll. How else do you expect him to resurrect his clan? No matter how much he broods over it, new Uchiha won't appear out of nowhere. If he just wants a family, that is one thing, but to resurrect a whole clan, he would need to make a lot of descendants with multiple women. Otherwise, the Uchiha genes will either be crippled by intermarriage or heavily diluted over time. Kakashi almost started to chuckle when Yuna finished her explanation. Now that I think about it, that is actually true. The always serious and proud last Uchiha proudly proclaimed that he is aiming for a harem. Considering Sasuke looks like he was just hit by a train, he probably hasn't considered that either. The color of Sakura's face, meanwhile, is constantly changing from a deep blush to a desperate pale face. Who knows what kind of thoughts are currently going through her head? I certainly don't want to know. Naruto seems to be rather indifferent about the whole matter. Does he already know about it? Now that I think about it, what does she mean by working on a method to make that possible? Ugh, I was warned that Yuna might be troublesome, but the introductions are barely finished and I'm already getting a serious headache. Thank you for another enlightening introduction. Now that we... Whoa there, hold your horses. I was just about to unveil my additional dream when Sakura interrupted me. Aren't you interested? Somehow, Kakashi felt that saying yes would be a mistake, but he couldn't help but get curious about it. Fine then, go ahead. Okay. My final dream is... Yuna's grin widened and her eyes shone with fierce determination. Kakashi was already regretting that he didn't stop her. To surpass everyone who stands in my way and eclipse this world's most powerful being. If another 12-year-old had said that, Kakashi would have probably dismissed it as a random child's ramblings, but Yuna's eyes were telling a different story. Unbendable confidence and willpower were radiating out of them as if she held no doubt that she would reach her goal and that it was just a matter of time. If that's all there was to it, he might have still dismissed it as a child not knowing what kind of nonsense it was spouting, but Yuna's smile that was laced with a thirst for battle told another story. She isn't unaware of the hardships. She welcomes them. Considering she mentioned that she likes fighting rather casually in her introduction, I wasn't paying much attention to it, but that seems to have been an oversight. Rather than saying her dream is to become the strongest, isn't it more fitting to say she wants to fight against the strongest? Luckily, she will switch to another jonin soon. I really don't want to deal with someone this thirsty for battle. Kakashi could see that Sakura and Sasuke were eyeing Yuna like she was an idiot, and his instincts were telling him that, if one of them said something dismissive about her dream right now, there will be a lot of trouble, so Kakashi quickly intervened. That is rather ambitious, but I guess you can't reach high if you don't aim high. Nice one, me. That should de-escalate the situation for now. Anyway, tomorrow we will be having a survival test. Those that don't pass will be sent back to the academy. No matter how much you beg or cry, if your Jonin sensei doesn't accept you, then too bad. Yuna is actually excluded from the test since I am not her official Jonin sensei. Haha, no way. Don't be like that, Kakashi. How about you let me take part as well? I expect my own sensei to make it rather difficult for me, so if I can't even pass your test, I shouldn't even bother with the other one. Kakashi really wanted to curse Yuna for cunningly inserting herself into the group, but decided to not bother with it instead. I can't really fail this team anyway. Whether she is here or not doesn't really matter in the end. Fine, whatever, you can take part in it as well. I suggest you don't eat any breakfast, since you might throw it up. Dismissed. If Kakashi saw the smirk that was currently on Yuna's and Naruto's faces, he would have probably changed his decision rather quickly. Chapter 48, Start of the Bell Test. Yuna and Naruto were currently on their way back home. Yuna noticed that Naruto wanted to ask something, but wasn't sure how to do it. Yuna could guess that it had something to do with tomorrow's survival training, but decided to keep quiet until Naruto asked his questions. It took a few more minutes for Naruto to finally open his mouth. Ne-san, I have a question. Yuna only responded with a light hum, which Naruto interpreted as a go ahead. In the academy, most exercise we learned about during classes centered around teamwork, right? Yuna only nodded her head even though she had no clue. She spent most lessons zoned out, after all. Then why is our first lesson after the academy an exercise that could break apart our freshly created team? Yuna nodded in approval. Naruto really has grown up well and started to doubt the things most people would deem absolute truths. For example, their teacher's words. Well, Naruto, then what do you think will happen? What will the test be about? Naruto ponders for a while and then comes to a conclusion. It will probably force us to work together as a team. Or, seeing that Yuna wasn't entirely satisfied with his answer, he kept pondering. Yuna seems to agree that it will have something to do with teamwork, so he only had to think in that direction. A few minutes later, he came to a conclusion. We will not be forced to use teamwork. There will be no mention of teamwork at all, and there might even be circumstances that discourage it. Kakashi-sensei probably wants us to learn the importance of working as a team. Yuna nodded in approval. Well done, Naruto. I also think it will be something like this. Yuna, of course, had no idea what to expect from tomorrow's test. She only listened to Naruto's explanation and agreed with it. It was the day of their test and they were supposed to appear at the training ground at 7 in the morning. It was currently 8 in the morning and the trio was lazily eating breakfast. Hinata apparently had a similar test which would start at 9. Luckily, Yuna did at least some research on Kakashi and found out that he is always at least 2 hours late. As for not eating breakfast, that was just stupid talk. What kind of idiot knows he will have to go through a survival test and not eat properly beforehand? Even if you puke it out somehow, your body would have at least absorbed some nutrition before doing so. Another 30 minutes passed and the trio left the house at the same time but headed in different directions. After an additional 15 minutes of walking, Yuna and Naruto reached the training ground and as expected, Kakashi was nowhere in sight. Sasuke was currently busy brooding even harder than usual, probably a combination of hunger and anger, while Sakura looked a little bit like a human corpse that starved to death a few minutes ago. Yo, you two look like shit. How was your day so far? Sasuke and Sakura naturally started glaring at Yuna immediately. They were just about to retort when Yuna tossed them a rice ball each. Eat something. Having 2 people starve on my first assignment isn't exactly a good advertisement for me. Kakashi-sensei told us not to eat anything for breakfast. Yuna could only roll her eyes at Sakura vehemently sticking to the rules when she was close to starving. Yuna hoped she could at least raise Sakura's worth from useless to could potentially be used as canned fodder, but she guessed it just can't be done. To Yuna's surprise, however, Naruto pitched in. Well, Sakura, breakfast time is already over. Kakashi never told us to not eat any snacks after breakfast. You are not breaking any rules at all. Yuna could only shake her head at how naive that logic was. There is no way such a childlike logic could convince that stub. Did she just start eating that F** in rice ball? Even Sasuke started eating, what the hell? Yuna couldn't help but look at Naruto like he was an alien. How the hell did that work? What did he do? Wait, this isn't the first time this has happened either. The first time this happened was with Kurama, or was it? Has he used this on me before? He would occasionally convince me to allow him an extra bowl of ramen despite me being against it at the start. Maybe. While Yuna was going through a minor existential crisis, Kurama could only shake his head inside Yuna's minscape. In those situations, you act more like a doting grandmother than a big sister, so I'm not surprised you cave in so easily to Naruto's requests. It took another half an hour for Kakashi to finally appear. Yo. You're late. Easy, easy, I got stuck on the road of life while getting here. Anyway, here is your test. Kakashi took out a timer and set it for noon and then took out 3 bells and bound them to his belt. Before the alarm rings, you have to get one of the bells. Everyone who doesn't have one will be sent back to the academy. What? But there are only 3 bells. Correct. One of you will be sent back no matter what. My test, my rules, there is nothing you can do about that. Sakura and Sasuke clenched their fist, while Naruto and Yuna gave each other a glance. The two of them have become rather experienced at communicating with only their eyes, and only a few moments later, they broke eye contact. Kakashi noticed their silent communication as well and couldn't help but get slightly curious at what those two had planned. Well, let's begin. The test starts now. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura immediately dashed away and hid inside the nearby forest. Yuna, however, was still standing in front of Kakashi with a relaxed smile on her face, and her arms crossed in front of her chest. Aren't you a little off, Yuna? Hee, not at all. I have done my research after all. I know your weakness and will naturally exploit it. Oh? My weakness? Now I'm getting rather interested. Let's see what you got. Shinobi Fighting Lesson Number 1 Taijutsu. After that sentence, Kakashi took a book out of his back pocket and started reading it. Yuna, however, only smirked at him. Seems like my theories about you were correct. Then let me show you what I got. Rich second generation hidden move, slapping your enemy's face with wealth. Similar to Kakashi, Yuna pulled a small book out of her back pocket. To Kakashi's surprise, it was the very book he was currently reading. Although he was a little surprised by that, he didn't care too much about it. Then, however, Yuna turned the book around, opened it, and revealed the last page. The first thing Kakashi noticed was the author's, Red Rose's, signature being present. This truly surprised him, since there are only very few signed copies out there. Kakashi, of course, had his own signed book, so he quickly recovered from his shock. It seems you have researched me rather well, but this alone won't be enough to shock me. Yuna's smirk, however, only got bigger when he heard that comment. She was in a rather similar situation a few days ago, after all. Without saying another word, she opened the book on a very specific page and showed it to Kakashi. Kakashi's one visible eye immediately widened when he realized that Yuna was implying that she was currently holding one of the review copies of his favorite book in her hand. She said she could guess one of my dreams. Did she know I wanted this book? How did she find out about that? Kakashi didn't even notice that he had already revealed his Sharingan to make sure he wasn't tricked by a genjutsu. His Sharingan started spinning with lightning speed and scanned through the 2 pages, currently revealed by Yuna. He quickly found what he was looking for and couldn't help but be dazed by it. An actual review copy. To think I would see one in my lifetime. If I could get my hands on it, I would place it on top of my Shri **** collection. While Kakashi was sinking further and further into his thoughts, his instincts suddenly flared. He immediately started to pump chakra into his feet and jumped away with all his might. Naruto, whose fingertips were already touching the bells, could only click his tongue in annoyance. Sorry, Ne-san. Seems like he noticed me. Haha, no worries, Naruto. I didn't expect this to be over this easily after all. Switch to plan B and start preparing. Yes, Ne-san. Naruto quickly disappeared into the forest again, while Kakashi approached Yuna again. I have to admit that it was almost my loss there. Yuna only shrugged at that. Yeah, but as expected, asking a 12-year-old to sneak up on an elite shonen was a little much to ask for. You almost sound like you were hoping for this plan to fail. Guilty. Yuna's face distorted into a battle-thirsty smile as she flared her chakra and caused the ground around her to crack. Kakashi could only sigh at that. What kind of trouble have I gotten myself into? Chapter 49, Yuna vs. Kakashi. Sasuke was truly stunned by what was currently happening in front of him. First, his new sensei revealed that he had a Sharingan, a dojutsu that should be exclusive to the Uchiha clan. This made it rather obvious why Kakashi was chosen as his sensei. Next, Naruto somehow managed to sneak up on their new sensei and almost stole the bells. Sasuke wasn't sure what exactly was going on, but it probably had something to do with that book Yuna was holding up the whole time. Kakashi seemed to become dazed after Yuna showed him one of the pages. Does she possess some sort of secret intel about Kakashi? What happened next, however, left Sasuke truly dumbfounded. Yuna flared her chakra. Even Sasuke, who was a few 100 meters away, could feel some pressure. Just how much chakra does she have? He really wanted to watch the fight, to see what Kakashi could do, but decided that it would be better to prepare his own ambush instead. With that crazy amount of chakra, she should be able to hold Kakashi back for a while. I will use that time to prepare an ambush to get the bell instantly. Just when he was about to leave, he saw Naruto approaching him. What do you want, idiot? Naruto could only shake his head at the unreasonable insults. Let's work together, there is no way we. Not interested. I don't need help from anybody and especially not from you. Get lost, I have a bell to get. Naruto could only shrug at that. He could explain the true goal of this test to Sasuke, but why should he bother? Yuna had already explained to him the end result of this test, so he might as well have some fun with it. He walked deeper into the forest, and as soon as he reached a place he deemed adequate for his preparations, a devious smirk that was rather similar to Yuna's appeared on his face, while his 10 fingers lit up with blue chakra. Hee, let's see what I can get done before Kakashi-sensei arrives. Kakashi, on the other hand, wasn't having a good time at all. Since he already had his Sharingan revealed, he thought he might as well play around with Yuna for a while, but the moment he tried to read her movements, he felt like his head was hit by a hammer. Even though Yuna was just standing still, Kakashi was overwhelmed by over a dozen overlapping images of Yuna attacking him through different patterns, with each pattern being interlaced with an unheard of number of fates. Seeing Kakashi groan in pain while covering his left eye, Yuna could only smirk. She has done some research on the Sharingan and came up with a rather amusing method to counter it. The Sharingan apparently reads someone's muscle movement and predicts the enemy's movement through that. She saw some records that said the user of the Sharingan sees his opponent's movement as an image that was moving slightly ahead of the attacker. So, what happens if you are constantly flexing your muscles to make it look like you will be moving in a certain way just to relax the muscles again and flex a different combination? The Sharingan will be overloaded with different movements, making it hard to concentrate on your actual enemies instead of their future images. Yuna wasn't sure if this would work on a real, experienced Uchiha as well, but it was worth a try if she got the chance. Seeing that Kakashi had overcome his headache, Yuna finally decided to make her move. She decided not to bother with any fancy tricks and start with a frontal assault. She simply charged forward and punched towards Kakashi's stomach. Her fist was easily caught by Kakashi, but considering his eye twitched for a moment, he probably wasn't expecting such a hard punch. What is with this strength? She is slightly below the low Jonin level. I haven't heard anything about this. Well, even with all that strength, she is still just a child without any combat experience. However, I would really like to know why my Sharingan reacted like that. Kakashi pushed Yuna's fist aside in an attempt to make her falter a little. Yuna, however, used that momentum to spin around in an attempt to backhand Kakashi with her other hand. He widened his eyes in surprise and jumped backwards, but Yuna wasn't done yet. Her backhand might have missed, but she still had momentum from spinning around once. She bent her legs and jumped at Kakashi, flipped around in midair, and delivered a powerful axe kick that Kakashi blocked by crossing his arms above him. As soon as the kick landed, Kakashi groaned a little while the ground underneath him cracked. Although my assessment of her physical strength was correct, she certainly knows how to use it properly. Is she really fresh out of the academy? Where did this crazy fighting style even come from? Yuna backflipped away from Kakashi and landed gracefully a few meters away from him. Her purple eyes shone with excitement and the battle-thirsty grin on her face got even more pronounced. Hee, this will be a lot of fun. He is physically stronger and faster than me, which isn't surprising since I still have the body of a child, but can't compare to my combat experience. Seems like he wants to restrict himself to taijutsu only, which is probably quite the disadvantage for him, but oh well, I will take it. Kakashi, however, could only bemoan his fate when he saw the excitement in Yuna's eyes. Whoever her sensei will be, I hope he or she comes back as fast as possible. Like that, the two kept going back and forth for another 10 minutes when Kakashi decided to end this, so he could test his actual students. Yuna immediately noticed that something changed and concluded that Kakashi decided to flip the table and stop playing around. Since he prepared a trap for me, it is only common courtesy to walk straight in. I don't think that is how it works. Hush, now. I need to concentrate to counter the trap. As Yuna expected, Kakashi showed an opening that she could use and swiftly punched him in the stomach. As soon as her punch landed, she knew something was off, and when the Kakashi she just punched turned into water, she knew for certain what happened. A water clone, huh? Haven't seen those before. Yuna immediately noticed Kakashi crouching behind her. What kind of weird-ass attack pose is that? Hidden Leaf Ancient Taijutsu's supreme technique, a 1000 years of pain. Seeing what kind of attack Kakashi was using, Yuna's eyes turned as cold as ice while her face turned into a vicious smirk. Kakashi's attack was just about to hit when the Yuna in front of him puffed into a cloud of smoke and vanished. Heavenly forbidden divine art. Yuna's cold words that seemed to be completely detached from emotions echoed over the training ground, sending shivers down the spines of everyone who heard them. Kakashi frantically scanned the battlefield in an attempt to find Yuna, but couldn't see her at all. Monkey King. Kakashi looked down and saw Yuna was laying between his legs with her right hand making a grabbing motion. Steals. Kakashi shuddered in terror when he realized what was going on. He started to frantically pump chakra into his legs in an attempt to get away from his current position. The peaches of immortality. Yuna's hand shot upwards while Kakashi jumped away with all his strength. Yuna's hand almost found her target, but she seemed to have slightly miscalculated her aim, and Kakashi managed to get away just in time to avoid having his peaches stolen. As soon as he landed, he looked at Yuna like she was crazy. "What are you doing? Do you know how dangerous that was?" Yuna only snorted at that. "We didn't even have our first date yet, but you are already aiming for my back door. I don't think that is any better." If more parts of his face were visible, it would be possible to see a little blush on Kakashi's face. ***, let's forget about that for now. Yuna rolled her eyes at how shamelessly Kakashi swept the whole matter under the rug. Fine, you probably want to play around with your actual team now to test their teamwork. Or lack of it. Kakashi widened his eyes for a moment when he heard that Yuna figured out his test and gave her a suspicious look. No need to look at me like that. I slept pretty much throughout the whole academy years and didn't even know that teamwork was one of the main subjects taught. Naruto figured it out on his own and told me about it. Kakashi grew even more suspicious when he heard that. Then why didn't you bother about it and attack me alone? There are actually 3 reasons. First, I simply wanted to fight a strong opponent like you on my own. Kakashi only nodded. He has expected this to be one of the reasons. This, however, would mean that she would rather fulfill her selfish desire instead of supporting her teen. A teen that currently had her little brother in it. Second, no matter how much time I take away from Team 7, you won't fail them. It is in the interest of the village to have their Jinchuriki and the last Uchiha trained after all. Kakashi really didn't want to admit it, but that was indeed the case. He could fail all the previous teens because there were no big shots in them. That was different from his current teen. I see, so she indulged in her own desire because there were no consequences anyway. I guess I can live with that. And the last reason. Yuna smirked a little and lifted her hand, revealing a single golden bell. If a person can get the job done alone, then there is no reason for a teen. Kakashi widened his eyes when he saw that bell. He gave his belt a quick glance and saw that one of them was indeed missing. When? He was just about to ask when Yuna managed to get the bell when the realization hit him. That's right. Instead of stealing some peaches, I would rather go for a bell. Kakashi could only sigh in defeat. Whatever, time to find my students. Haha, have fun. I should have bought Naruto a lot of prep time, so there should be quite the show waiting for you. Kakashi almost staggered when he heard that. Should I just retire? I hope Naruto isn't as bad as his sister, because if he is, my ham might fall out from stress. I still need to coax that review copy out of Yuna as well. I wonder what she wants in return. Chapter 50, Naruto vs. Kakashi. Shinobi Fighting Lessons Number 2 Genjutsu. Kakashi looked at the unconscious Sakura and could only shake his head. This one needs a lot of training before she can get useful. Let's find Sasuke next and see what the last Uchiha can do. After a few more minutes of walking, he reached a clearing and found Sasuke standing in the middle of it with both of his hands inside his weapon holsters. Kakashi quickly glanced around and found quite a few traps strewn all over the clearing. Pretty good trap-making skills. A normal Chunin would probably have trouble finding all of them. Sasuke-kun, it seems like Yuna bought you quite a bit of time to prepare. Sasuke glanced at Kakashi's belt and sneered when he saw that there were still 3 bells on it. As expected, that idiot failed. No matter how much chakra she has, she will always be inferior to an Uchiha like me. Kakashi, of course, had already replaced the bell Yuna stole with a new one to trick his students. Well, for that to be true you would actually have to get a bell from me, no. Truth be told, Kakashi wasn't worried about Sasuke stealing a bell from him. Yuna hid her true skills very well and launched her surprise attack at the perfect moment. With Sasuke's personality, it is pretty much impossible that he had hidden any skills during his time at the academy, so Kakashi knew exactly what he was capable of. His skills were somewhere between Genin and Chunin, but considering he had almost no experience in real combat he was probably around high Genin in strength. Sasuke moved his hands and tossed shuriken all over the clearing, activating multiple traps simultaneously. Seeing every shuriken flawlessly activate a trap, Kakashi nodded in approval. As expected, Uchihas have always been pretty much peerless in the use of shuriken, and Sasuke seems to have inherited that talent. Despite the massive amounts of weapons flying at him, Kakashi's pose was still rather casual. Dozens of weapons hit him simultaneously, but the moment he hit the ground, his body turned into a wooden log. Activating all of that was a waste, a single substitute, and all that effort is wasted. Sasuke, however, seems to have predicted that Kakashi would substitute himself and was already going through hand seals for his next move. He took a big breath and then exhaled a fireball towards Kakashi's new position. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. Well, this probably would have been more impressive if I hadn't fought that chakra monster called Yuna a few minutes ago. Kakashi went through his own hand seals and sank into the ground to dodge the fireball. After his fireball faded, Sasuke started to look around for Kakashi, but couldn't find him. Where is he hiding? I don't feel like I got him with that. Before Sasuke could think about the situation properly, two arms shot out of the ground, grabbed his legs, and pulled him up to his neck into the ground. Shinobi Fighting Lessons Number 3 Ninjutsu. Earth Style, Headhunter Jutsu. Well, that wasn't too bad, but still not enough. Before Sasuke could say anything, Kakashi left to find Naruto. Maybe leaving him for last was a bad idea. Oh well, let's see what he's got. A few moments later, he reached another clearing, this time with Naruto standing inside of it. To Kakashi's surprise, he couldn't detect a single trap. He didn't prepare any traps. No, that should be impossible. My instincts are telling me that something is off about the whole clearing. Hello, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto stopped for a moment and glanced at Kakashi's belt to check for bells. Did you take out a new bell after Nasen got one? Kakashi crossed eyes with Naruto for a moment and could only shake his head. Absolute trust and not a single smidgen of doubt or jealousy, huh? Just how did these two turn out like that? Kakashi took off one of the bells and put it away in his pocket. Correct, she got one. However, she also told me that you were the one to figure out the purpose of the test, so why are you still going solo? Naruto could only give Kakashi a wry smile as an answer. Sasuke said that he doesn't need help from someone like me, while Sakura only cared about Sasuke from the start. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei, but I have my own pride as well. I asked both of them for help and they both denied my request, so rather than disgrace myself by asking further, I might as well take things into my own hands. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Working together with people that don't like you but are willing to cooperate is a completely different matter from working together with people that don't like you and don't want to cooperate. Well, Kakashi-sensei, I wonder if you can keep a secret for me. Although he felt that question was rather weird, he decided to still answer truthfully. That depends on who you want me to keep the secret from. Everyone except the Hokage. Kakashi pondered for a while and then agreed. As long as the Hokage is allowed to know about it, then it was fine. All right, I agree. What is your sec? Kakashi stopped talking when he felt an oppressive chakra leak out of Naruto. You have got to be joking. Kakashi really wanted to cry after he saw what happened in front of him. Naruto's nails grew larger, his facial features more savage, and his eyes turned red. A single tail of red chakra appeared while a cloak of red bubbling chakra covered his body. Hee, Kakashi-sensei, what do you think about my secret? By the way, no need to worry about the chakra leaking and alarming the village. I spent the time Nasan bought me to put up a ceiling array that prevents chakra leakage. So how about we have some fun? Seeing a rather familiar-looking grin on Naruto's face, Kakashi could only resign to his fate. Fourth, are you seeing this? Both of your children are monsters. One more abnormal than the other. Naruto charged forward on his four limbs, jumped, and threw a powerful punch at Kakashi. Kakashi decided to dodge this one, and since the ground around the impact point of the punch was obliterated, he concluded that this was a good decision. He quickly pulled up his headband to reveal his Sharingan, and to his relief, he could see Naruto's movement properly. Or that was at least what he thought, until the red chakra, cloaking Naruto, started to move independently from Naruto's body without any prior indications. After a few minutes of back and forth, Naruto stopped his assault and stood back up. Haha, what Nasen said is true, fighting a strong opponent is really fun. Kakashi really wanted to curse Yuna for installing that kind of idea into Naruto but could see it was already too late. Naruto was already too far gone. How about we kick it up a notch, Kakashi-sensei? Can't have all my work go to waste, after all. Kakashi didn't even bother to pretend that he was in control of the situation when he answered. I would rather not. Unfortunately for him, Naruto didn't care about his opinion and clapped his hands together to gather chakra. Uzumaki style, absolute control ceiling array activate. Kakashi's eyes turned lifeless when he saw the massive number of seals that started shining all over the clearing. I see, so I'm still dreaming. I think right about now would be a rather good moment to wake up. Unfortunately, he didn't wake up but instead saw a massive number of kunai, shuriken, and, for some reason, cakes being hurled at him. His Sharingan started spinning like crazy as he started to fend off the endless assault of weapons, pastry, and Naruto himself. In a distant clearing, a clock rang an alarm, signaling that the test was over. Yuna was currently lazing around in said clearing, while happily munching on some dried fish. Recently she has started to enjoy this rather unusual snack that was imported from the land of water. A few moments later, Sasuke and Sakura appeared in the clearing. Sasuke seems to be covered up to the neck in dirt like his whole body had been buried in it, while Sakura looked like she spent the last few hours with her face pushed into the grass. What the hell did Kakashi do to these two? Yo, did you enjoy yourself? Sakura was just about to explode into a rant when Kakashi came walking out of the jungle closely followed by Naruto. On the first look, Naruto's condition seemed to be much worse than Kakashi, but Yuna's experienced eyes could clearly tell what was going on. Both of them are pretty spent, huh? But, while Kakashi plays it cool, Naruto doesn't bother about that and shows how exhausted he really is. Well, this is the consequence of allowing someone with high mastery over seals and obscene amounts of chakra to properly prepare the battlefield. As soon as Naruto saw Yuna, his face lit up with a smile and he started running towards her. Kakashi almost coughed out some blood when he saw that Naruto had already recovered enough stamina to run. That damn monster. He has been continuously attacking me relentlessly for the last 40 minutes and seems to already be good to go again. Nei-san, I almost got one of the bells a few times. Seeing Naruto's eyes that radiated excitement, how could Yuna not know that he wanted to be praised? Haha, good job, Naruto. Even for me, getting a bell wasn't easy. You got a bell? Sasuke and Sakura seem to actually be in sync for once. Sakura will probably be rather happy about that when she thinks about it later today. Before the situation could escalate, Kakashi quickly intervened. Yuna did indeed get one of the bells, but that isn't really of importance. She wasn't part of this team from the beginning, so it doesn't really matter. You still don't understand what this test was all about. Kakashi glanced at Naruto in order to not make him spill the beans, but could see that Naruto already understood the situation. Despite not seeming very bright on the first look, he is very quick-witted and good at reading the mood. Whoever trained Naruto knew exactly what she was doing. Kakashi gave Yuna another glance and noticed that she was absent-mindedly munching on some snack, while apparently not even being aware of her surroundings. My instincts are telling me that Yuna's role in all of this is much bigger than she shows to the outside. To what degree was today manipulated by her? Did she only have some fun fighting a strong opponent and consequently gave Naruto more time to prepare, or does the rabbit hole go much deeper than this? What the test was about? Wasn't it about stealing the bells from you, Kakashi-sensei? To Kakashi's surprise, Naruto was the first one to push the conversation forward. If he wasn't looking incredibly bored right now, I might even think that the question was genuine. His eyes are occasionally glancing at Sakura and Sasuke while almost screaming, "Figure it out already," so that is probably not the case. Since Naruto wants to push the conversation forward, Kakashi, naturally, wouldn't stop Naruto. Of course, it wasn't. As genin fresh from the academy, it is pretty much impossible for you to steal those bells from me. Yuna's case is rather unique, so that doesn't count. The true goal was for you to work together as a team despite being pitted against each other. Kakashi couldn't help but cringe a little when he said it was impossible for a genin to steal the bells when Yuna actually did it and Naruto almost did it a few times. Kakashi wasn't exactly a normal genin, after all. The people inside Konoha that could go toe-to-toe with him could probably be counted on one hand. Naruto was, yet again, the one to push the situation forward. If we were supposed to fight as a team, then why weren't there enough bells for each of us? That was, of course, to disrupt your teamwork. You will be working together as a team for a long time now, and if something this simple already stops you from working together, you might as well stop being a shinobi right here and now. You are unfit for that occupation. Kakashi could immediately feel resentment oozing out of Sasuke after he said that. Sasuke took out a kunai and charged at Kakashi. Will not be stopped here. Kakashi could only shake his head after seeing such a reckless charge. Anger might improve someone's chance of victory in certain situations, but reckless anger is never a good thing. The moment Sasuke got into the range of Kakashi's arms, he was on the ground with his face pressed into the dirt and Kakashi's foot on his head. It seems like you truly don't understand how outclassed you are. Don't step on Sasuke kun. While Sakura was screeching and Sasuke was dumbfounded by how easily he was subdued, Naruto's face became sullen. He knew that Kakashi had acknowledged playing by Naruto's rules when he entered the clearing that was stuffed to the brim with his seals, but just now, he realized how much of a handicap Kakashi actually gave him. Yuna, meanwhile, didn't care about the situation at all. She knew more or less how strong Kakashi was and didn't think he and her would ever have a fight against each other where they would reveal all their trump cards, so she lost most of her interest in him. Remember these words well. In my opinion, there is nothing more important than to follow them. Those who break the rules and codes of the ninja are called trash, but those who don't care for their comrades are lower than trash. To everyone's surprise, as soon as Kakashi said those words, boisterous laughter echoed through the battlefield. Gahahaha, good, very good. That is exactly how it is. Those that choose to abandon people that trusted them are nothing but trash. F** the rules, F** common sense. Only by trusting those you consider close can you live a truly happy life. After giving her small speech, everyone was giving Yuna weird looks for that sudden outburst but decided to ignore her a few moments later. The only one slightly affected seemed to be Kakashi, who recovered after a few seconds. Anyway, I will give you a second chance. Yuna has already passed and won't participate in this one. Naruto and Sasuke, you two will be allowed to eat something, while Sakura gets tied to a pole without getting any food. She was the worst in the first part of the test after all. Afterward, Kakashi swiftly tied Sakura to one of the poles that were present on the training ground and then left the four people alone. Kakashi was currently crouching in one of the trees and observing the situation. He immediately noticed that Yuna was missing and wondered where she went. Weird, I'm pretty sure she. So, Kakashi, do you think Sasuke will see through this? Although Kakashi almost involuntarily changed the color of his underwear, he still played it cool. I am pretty sure he will. I dropped like half a dozen hints on how important teamwork is after all. You sure are optimistic. While Naruto and Sasuke were eating, the atmosphere grew more and more awkward by the moment. From an outsider's perspective, it was rather obvious that Naruto wanted nothing more than to give Sakura some food to finally end this farce, but it was rather obvious that he wanted Sasuke to be the one who initiated it to strengthen the teamwork of this group. It took Sasuke quite a while to finally realize that they were supposed to work as a team and that Sakura would pretty much be useless if she was starving during the whole fight. He finally came to the conclusion that he would have to give her some food for her to be useful, and as soon as he did, Naruto pitched in as well to share some of his food. Sasuke actually managed to figure it out, huh? Kakashi was probably even more surprised than Yuna but decided to play it cool. Of course, he did. Yuna didn't bother to expose Kakashi and allowed him to play the role of the knowledgeable sensei. Next, Kakashi appeared in front of the newly formed Team 7, told them that they have passed, and then explained to them the importance of teamwork yet again. Tomorrow they would finally start their first official shinobi mission.